It is just a huge honor to be here in Phoenix in the studio with Michael Whirley. Thank you so much. It's Dr. Michael Whirley, DDS, FAGD, Associate Fellow, AAID, graduate from Baylor College of Dentistry in '89, then went on to complete a GPR at Worcester City Hospital and Massachusetts General Hospital. Immediately, Dr. Whirley continued to pursue his advanced training, including over 500 hours each in orthodontics and implantology. This allowed him to achieve the status of Fellow in the Academy of General Dentistry very early in his career. While pursuing his fellowship, Dr. Whirley established his dental practice, HEB Dental Excellence, in 1994. Truly passionate about excellence in dentistry, Dr. Whirley felt just as strongly about giving back to his fellow man, so he also worked with the United Way to establish the Northeast Tarrant County Dental Clinic for the underprivileged in 1994, concurrent with opening his practice. He also went on numerous mission trips, which led him to establish the Wehrle Implant Immersion Dental Center and Clinic in Puebla, Mexico, about 2 hours outside of Mexico City. He uses this incredible facility to serve the local residents around the clinic, as well as offering the center's hotel facilities to mission groups serving the area. The combination of his two passions eventually led to his creation of the Wehrle Implant Immersion Course in Puebla, Mexico, the premier course for basic and advanced life implant training utilization, true immersion. Dr. Whirley frequently lectures and teaches in both Mexico and the United States and is accredited by both the ADA and AGD, allowing him to offer CE credits to his graduates. Thank you so much for coming by the office today on the show. Well, first of all, how did you even get started in dentistry?
I got started in dentistry. I was 8 years old and I went to a dental office. I grew up poor, inner city on food stamps. And it was one of the rare trips to the dental office, and the guy leaves the room. He's got front delivery. What I know now is front delivery. So all the stuff is sitting there in front of my face. And I'm looking at all the guy's toys. He's got all these cool toys. And I knew that dentists made money, some sort of money. And I just didn't want to be on food stamps the rest of my life. I was already good in school. So I said, all right, this guy makes money. He gets to play with cool toys. He looks like he's the boss. You know, I like to run things. Even at 8, I like to run things. I went home and told my mom, I said, Mom, I'm going to be a dentist. She said, great. Considering the neighborhood we live in, at least you're not going to be a felon or a drug dealer. This is good. Go be a dentist. And I've never changed since then. And it's been the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's just, I love dentistry.
What city did you were born and raised in?
I was in Buffalo, New York. And I grew up in the West Side.
Didn't they ever get a football team?
They sort of have one, but they haven't won anything yet. They just get very close.
One of my friends, Sam Dominic, he's been on the show. There's nothing that stresses him out more than the Buffalo Bills. But yeah, you know what? And I still think there's nothing wrong with selling Mercedes-Benz and Lamborghinis and all that. And a lot of people, I remember Mother Teresa one time said something about some guy. I think it was the guy in Pulp Fiction. Someone made a comment because he'd gone to a casino and lost $1 million. But what people don't realize is that when you lose $1 million, all those casino workers have a job,
right?
And all. So I have nothing wrong with making boats and yachts and whatever. But I still think some of the greatest companies were made in the poor areas, like Walmart.
Sure.
I mean, when you're growing up in Bentonville, Arkansas, you just learned how to do more for less.
Sure.
And
exactly.
And too many times in dentistry, like you go to a major meeting and all the courses are about all on fours.
Right.
For $25,000 an arch. Well, where's the course on all on none?
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in Kansas. There's 100. How many all on nuns are done dentures for every all on four in America? What would you guess the ratio be?
Oh God, 1,000 to 1.
Yeah, and what people don't realize is there's no money in that. Really, there's no money in McDonald's?
Right, exactly.
Just a hamburger, frying a Coke. So you only want to own Ruth's Chris because there's no money in McDonald's. And I love it when people come from the poor, they don't forget their roots and all that. So you remind me of Yamaha. You know, all these business lessons, like they always say, do one thing, your unique selling problem. You only do one thing. Well, how do you explain Yamaha? I mean, who sells the number one motorcycle in Japan? Yamaha. Well, who sells the number one piano in Japan?
Yamaha.
Because the guy had two passions. He actually loved motorcycles and pianos, and his first winner in both divisions. You're an you mix orthodontics and implants. How did you mix?
Well, what happened
with a Yamaha stereo and a motorcycle?
What happened with orthodontics was, I bought the practice after I did associateship for 4 years. I bought the practice of William Wyatt Jr. And I know that you know William Wyatt Sr. So I'm in the same building as William Wyatt Sr. So I mean, and this is a family building, man. There's doors that open and you're in the person's bathroom. I mean, it's built as one family. So I'm in the family now. And Bill and I hit it off great because Bill is not just a genius, he's a gentleman. Bill Wyatt Sr., who helped to start and found the American Orthodontic Society we were talking about, and he is just an amazing human being. So I got to know him really well. We'd go to lunch and he would impart all his years of wisdom. And then when 5 years, 6 years down the road, I built my own place just a couple blocks up the road. And Bill still would come and we would share things, thoughts, and he would do ortho. But even then I was like, Bill, you do the ortho, you do the ortho. I was just referring to him. But then he came to me and he said, well, I got to retire. And I knew he didn't want to retire. I said, Bill, you already told me the day you retire is the day they start throwing dirt on you. And you're way too young for this, because he was only like 68 or something. Let me see. No, he was 72 or 73. And he said, well, my wife's retired and she runs the front desk, so I have to retire. And I said, well, you don't have to retire. I said, you're just a couple blocks down. I said, just come down. He goes, all right, I really appreciate that. Bill's got this wonderful country dialect. He says, if you just let me come down here, I'll just stay 6 months and I'll just finish up my cases and I'll finish up and I'll be done and I'll be gone. So Bill got down there and I actually took off Fridays then to give him the place on Friday so he could finish up. Also, I was thinking, oh, that's what young dentists do. I was young and stupid. I thought, well, I'm going to go off and work on my golf game. Hard, it lasted 4 weeks. 4 weeks of bad golf and drinking on the golf course and being drunk by 5 o'clock. And I realized, I said, my God, I've got a genius in orthodontics sitting back there. My golf game's terrible. You should have to drink to watch my golf game. And I said, I'm going to get back in there. And I started learning from Bill instead. So I started working side by side with him on Fridays. And once that happened, he became invigorated again because Bill loves nothing more than to teach. That's why he started the AOS. So now that he had a pupil to teach, and then I brought in another associate, and then he started teaching those, and one thing led to another. And he stuck around till he was 88 years old. And he kept trying to retire like the year before. And finally he sent me a letter with his insurance saying it expired, saying, well, my wife says I got to retire. So at 88, he finally retired. So he was my mentor for 12 years. And with Bill Wyatt as your mentor, you can't help but learn orthodontics.
Is he still alive?
Oh, yes, he is. As I'm going to tell you in the story. He's still a patient of mine.
Does his son work in the same building?
They don't, actually.
William Wyatt.
The one that I bought it from, Willie Wyatt Jr., that's who I bought the practice from.
You bought it from Junior.
Right. And so he was going off to sail the oceans, and he decided not to sail the oceans. And instead, he was literally going to take a yacht around the world. That was his dream. Then he found out, he didn't like the water that much. So he set up someplace else. Matter of fact, I saw him just a little while ago at Bill's last meeting. Now, he's like a rock star. I'll believe his last meeting when there's dirt thrown on him, but so much so. So he said, at 88, he said, I'm going to retire. And then just last year at like 90, he comes back. He says, well, I'm ready to come back. And I said, Bill, I'll take you any day you're there, because he's still the smartest guy in the room as far as orthodontics. And we do it for him, so his hands aren't in the mouth. But his wife said no. So he's just a patient in the practice now, and he is slowing up finally. But I mean,
here's what we have to do. And I've talked to Will Wyatt Jr. DDS. Love that guy. He's got like 20,000 posts on Dental Town. He's an amazing mind. He's just
he's a chip off the block. Yep.
Yeah, he's actually more scientist, astrophysicist, chemist. I mean, he's a real scientist. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But his dad's from that analog day.
Right.
And none of that is on YouTube. None of it's digital. He's solving
that. His other son, who's a math major, married a girl from.
Who'd have guessed?
Exactly. And he's a stud math teacher out there in the country, in Granbury, a little country thing. Bill's got like 200 or 300 acres out there. So that's a little country farm in Texas. And his wife, Madeira, is IT savvy. So she's got, if you go on YouTube, you'll see Bill's stuff popping up all over. He's got at least 100 cases on YouTube now. When Bill's cases are like forever going, on and on.
He's got a YouTube channel now?
Yes, he does.
What's his YouTube channel called? Do you know?
I guess it's got to be William Wyatt Senior.
William Wyatt. I'll go to YouTube right now.
But he's so she did finally get him out there, and you're right. That was Bill's big dream forever, was to do it, but it was just so cumbersome. But fortunately, he found, because she doesn't have a day job per se, she's wonderful. She goes everywhere with Bill, and they're always working together on this stuff. So he has the time, she has the time. They can work at it a little bit and then stop, whatever. And it's been wonderful for him and wonderful for her. And she's a very sweet young lady. It's very nice watching them together.
Do you see William E. Wyatt Jr. DDS? Do you see
I see Willie Jr. is what we call him. I see Willie like at that last meeting because it was Bill's last meeting. I saw him there, but normally I don't because we're on different sides of town, and you know how that is when you're dentists.
Well, have him send me that. I didn't find it. I did a search for Google and I found his son on YouTube, but not him. But
I will make a note to myself.
So did you learn a lot of the ortho? Did you?
Oh my God, yes.
You do a lot of the ortho now?
I do it all, and I do it the same way Bill did. I don't need a CBCT. I don't need a CEF. I don't need this, that. You look at the patient, and he would just take it in. He would just sit there. It's great watching a mind like his work because he took all that stuff and he knew how to read it. I mean, and so do I. But it was more just looking at the patient, and then he would let the patient talk to me. He'd ask him like 20 questions, and invariably he would always get the case right. I mean, I can tell you so many crazy stories with TMJ where the patient come in, and in like a month he'd have them solved, and they'd be like. Had this one that came in and she was hysterically crying. She was just a mess. And she said, I've been all these dentists and they keep messing up and I'm giving you one chance. And poor Bill's so sweet. He's not used to this kind of energy. And it doesn't bother me at all. Growing up in inner city, I'm like, whatever. So I said, all right, well, tell me what you want. So Bill goes, well, I don't know. I said, Bill, you do know. You always know. Just tell me where the bite's going to be. And he goes, I think it's going to be right here. Sure enough, it was right here. Next time in, she's only using a few 4-letter words. The time after that, she's not cussed all. And then she tells this whole story. Her life was breaking down. She found out walking into the practice that day that she was pregnant for a pregnancy she wasn't really expecting. And all this stuff was happening in her life on top of TMJ. And she was a completely different human being 60 days later because Bill had helped to take her out of the constant pain of TMJ. And that's just what Bill did all day long because it wasn't just TMJ and ortho. Bill just understood dentistry. And that's what I learned from him was to listen to patients, look at them, talk to them, and also just to be a better person because Bill's just a fantastic human being. I've been blessed to have him in my life. That's why I kept him around. That's why I wouldn't let him retire. Every time he tried, I'd say, no way.
You know what? You said how you did all these cases without a CBCT. I've had several oral radiologists on this show that cringe at these orthodontists that are taking a CBC just routine on every one of these trials. It's like they, but anyway, so that was your Yamaha motorcycle.
Right.
Now you got the #1 selling keyboard out there, implantology. So how did your journey end up in implantology?
That was because of my mission work that I did. I was already running mission work in the mid-cities, which is where I did all this charity dentistry. I started a charity clinic there. So I had 3 offices. Then I started one in Mexico. So I had 3 offices and I'm being paid at one of them. So I'm not a great business person to follow like you are. So the other 2, though, I had Dr. Wing volunteer. Dr. Wing, Mike Wing, becomes my associate in this story. He volunteered first in Dallas in the mid-cities, and then he was bilingual because he's from Panama originally. And I said, well, you want to go down to Mexico with me? And he says, all right, I'll go down to Mexico with you. We went down there. He was fantastic. We hit it off. We're coming back. And I said, man, where are you working? He said, I don't really like it. They tell me some days we can't even use certain color composites. I said, dude, if you come to my place, I'll let you use any color composite you want whenever you want. He says, sold. So he comes to the practice and goes, hey, do you mind if I do implants? And I said, no, I don't mind if you do implants as long as you're well-trained. Tell me, what's your training in implants? He says, well, I watched YouTube and I read some articles. I said, dude, that's a little sketchy, man. I said, I'm not saying you can't do it, but don't you think we should have something meatier holding? As I'm talking to him, I'm going through the mail. And in my hand is an ad for HEB Dental. And it says, come to Los Angeles, spend a weekend with us, and I'll make you an implantologist. So I said, well, all right, we can do this. So I book us both a flight. We go out there. And we have this lecture with this guy who used to work with Carl Misch, and he's talking mainly, he's telling war stories about Carl Misch and all this. We watch a surgery from here to like 50 feet away, and I buy the kit for $5,000, and I'm pronounced an implantologist. Well, I take my dentistry very seriously. I get back home and I start thinking, I go, wow, you're really more a danger than you are an implantologist right now. So I called up HEB Dental and said, hey man, I need help with this. This isn't good enough for me. They said, you're in luck. William Roddy's one of our best instructors and he lives in the area. So I called Dr. Roddy, and sure enough, I paid him to finish my implant training. And he had a CBCT. We didn't have a CBCT in our office yet. So I started using a CBCT. Plus, when you used a CBCT, he would tell you, go through the cases with you and all that. Until we could buy our own, like a year later, I got my first Gendex 700. And it just took off from there. So just from doing it, from my natural love of all things dental, because I had done everything in dentistry except implantology. I mean, I didn't refer out anything. I do all my endo, all my extractions, all this, all that. I'm fearless for that thing, but I was afraid of implantology because there were so many bad stories out there. I was besides being in you on the business side would be Gordon Christensen on the dental side. So I was going to all these meetings, and Gordon, every meeting was like, you need to be doing implants. If you're a general dentist, you need to be doing. I've got in my PowerPoints, I have slide after slide of him saying it year after year, and I just ignored him because just like everyone else, there was such a mystique around it that I was a little bit afraid. So by having Wing come in there, I was able to break that down, and it took a lot longer than it should have because I didn't get proper training. And then I started taking a bunch of CE, and I did what I do. I started just running around, following this guy, looking at this guy, doing this guy. And then, I started to get it, and I started to go along, but it could have gone a lot better if I had formal training. So actually, that was kind of the genesis of the implant training course, was besides building this thing down in Mexico, which made this all possible. When we actually built it, I sat down with some other guys who knew more about implantology. I always work with people smarter than me, which some people say is very easy to do. But I sat down with two guys smarter than me that had a bigger resume, and I said, "Look, man, let's sit down with a blank piece of paper, and I can make it all happen. I'm a logistics specialist, and I am a systems guy. I can make stuff up." I said, "Tell me what it would take to make the proper implant course." So they sat down, literally watched these guys talk back and forth, Eddie Lawrence and Steve McEnany, both of whom had done a bunch more implants than I did. And I sat it all down and I wrote it up, and I said, yeah, okay, all that stuff that you're talking about, I can do down at this facility that I built in Mexico along the way in this story. So that's how I got into implantology a little. And then I got into it a heck of a lot more when I started teaching it, obviously.
This giving back to the community, you set up a charity place the same year you started your dental office. Mm-hmm. Now you got this other charity. But where does that come from? Is that religious roots in
No, definitely
Buffalo?
Not. Actually, I started out an atheist. I became an agnostic and only came to Christ later in life. And actually, for a while, I was going on mission trips with Christians as an atheist, as an agnostic, because they couldn't find a Christian dentist to go with them. But they were cool patients in my practice. Said, "Hey, man, do you mind going on this trip?" I said, "What? You can't find a Christian to go?" And they said, "No, we can't. Do you mind going?" I said, "No, I like helping my fellow man." I grew up poor on food stamps. Howard, so many people helped me along the way, and for me to sit here and say that I'm a self-made man and that that what I have I own, that'd be so wrong and so wrong-headed of me. So I don't have a lot of good traits, but at least I know where I came from and I know how I got here. So I thought that I should give back. So I was going on these trips. I said, all right, you keep Jesus over there and I'll do the dentistry over here, and the two don't have to meet. But from hanging out with these people, I saw how good they were to people. Christianity done right really does speak to people, because all it is, if you're doing it right, not the dogmatic stuff that people fight around, that stupidity, the red letter stuff that Christ teaches is all about helping your fellow man and being decent. That's all it is. So I saw that, and I started working with these guys for year after year, not just a little bit. These were teams of 25 people. And again, I'm a systems guy. I would set up a funnel where there was diagnosis, numbing, this, that. I had airline mechanics placing the fillings in the mouth at the end of there after we prepped it and this, that. And we'd come back around and check them afterwards. And we had this whole thing going. We had a bunch of people go and said, I've been with the Army, and the Army doesn't do it as well as you people do. And this was in Honduras. So I did Honduras for 4 years before I came to Christ as a missionary. So it was kind of funny with the first time I went to church, and actually I was raised in a Catholic high school and a Catholic university. Still didn't take. So when I go to you've got some history there. So when I did finally meet with a pastor on all this, because I met my wife, and Tammy, and she's the one that actually finished leading me to Christ. I sat down with the pastor, and I said, and he goes, well, I said, I already tithe, I already do mission work, I already do this. He goes, well, you're already there. I got one little problem. I'm not sure God exists. And he goes, whoa, that's a big one. So he starts pulling all these books off the wall. And actually, I started with Mere Christianity, and then I went to Jesus, The Case for Christ, and then Jesus More Than a Carpenter. And that's what led me to Christ. So after that, I went on my very first mission trip 4 months after I became a Christian to Puebla, Mexico, just because by luck of the draw, that's where my church happened to be going. So Northwood Church, I go down there with them, and I go down with 25 MDs, and you're going to love this story, because you know how the MDs are the real doctors and we're not. So they all sit up there, and the first day it said, "Who wants to help with dental?" Nobody wants to help with dental. Well, I've got a lot of energy. I've got that's one of my other gifts is I've got a nuclear reaction. So I set up 4 chairs pointing in opposite directions in a room, and I went down to Walmart because they didn't have it. Then I got a rolling chair like this kind we're sitting here, and I would push back from one chair, spin in the chair, shoot my gloves in the basket, and be at the next patient starting over. And I would just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Teeth are shucking and flying everywhere and this and that because it's just pulling teeth, and I can do that all day long. So the med students are over there watching, having people cough behind this and talking health histories and looking at rashes. Well, I've got blood and guts flying over. They forget that we're doctors of dental surgery. We do surgery all day long. Next day, they say, okay, well, who wants to volunteer for dental? Ooh, take me. They all want to do dentistry. So then I've set up a doctor or an RD at each station. I was let them numb. I would, if it was a baby tooth like coming out or something, I'd let them take the tooth out. They had the time of their lives. On that trip, I met Tom Basile. And actually, I took out his wife's teeth with his 4 boys cheering me on in a circle in a parking lot, her 4 wisdom teeth, without a panel, without x-rays. I mean, you can see them, you can figure it out. So I go in there and I get them. And I knew from running the trips to Honduras that one of the things you need if you're doing proper mission work, is where you're not just doing it to feel good about yourself. You've got to make an impact over and over. So you need stability on the ground when you leave. These people had created their life around this. They knew everybody. They got married with the intent of living there. All the kids had been raised there. They'd been there since 18. I said, these people are stable. So I then come back. I go with my church to Vietnam, and I found out that churches shouldn't run dental trips because they just ran it just terribly. And I was like, oh my God, this was terrible. I told my wife, she goes, well, call that guy in Mexico and just do it yourself. I said, I will. So I call him back. It's really funny when Tom's sitting here because Tom says, oh, I get these calls all the time. You get fired up for Christianity because you come down a mission trip and you're going to help and you're going to do that. And then they don't, because one of Satan's great things is just the busyness of life overtakes us. I, again, have too much energy for one person. So I didn't have that problem. Tom will tell you that every word that I've ever said to him, I have kept. Every promise I made. So what I said was, all right, I'll do the mission trips. I'll come down. I'll do this, I'll that. But I want to live at your house because I knew he had a big house and I knew he had people stay there occasionally. I wanted to know who I was working with, man. You know, I'm fresh to dentistry. I grew up inner city where I'm used to scams and people saying one thing and doing another, a lot of hypocrisy. So I want to see if he was the real deal. He's the real deal. Okay. So for years, I live at his house and I would just come up up to once a month. I would go up there just for a weekend and we'd find some place and pull teeth in Puebla with an A, Puebla, Mexico.
With an A?
With Puebla, yeah. Puebla is the 4th biggest city in Mexico. It is 3 to 4 million people in the city itself. It's like 8 million in the entire metroplex. It's up at 7,000 feet, 2,000 higher than Denver. So it has the same climate as San Diego. And because you're closer to the equator, you don't have all that, the altitude sickness. It has an international airport, so you can fly directly in and out of there. You have to understand the drug problem in Mexico. They're trying to get the drugs from Guatemala to America as fast as they can. And if you're a city along that path, you're going to get drug soaked. Like Monterey used to be called the city of gold. Now it's a city of drugs. That's a sad, terrible thing. Puebla is a 7,000-foot dead end for these people. They've got no business there. It's also got more colleges than a place. It's like their Boston, and it has UDLA, which is their Harvard, which is University de los Americas, of the Americas. And so they don't have all those problems there. So it's like, wow, it's this perfect place to be just by, blind luck or divine providence. Take your pick. I'm going to tell you it's Jesus Christ. So I start going on the mission trips with them. But my problem was this. I'm a well-grounded wet finger dentist. I want to make cases perfect. All I'm doing is shuck and cheese, Howard. I mean, they love it. They're focused. One time we go down to Argentina. It's like something out of a TV commercial. This woman walks up, drop dead gorgeous. And then she smiles and it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, her teeth were just horrible. We took out 12 teeth on her. The next day, she makes us chocolate chip cookies and brings it back in the worst ghetto I've ever worked at. And I've worked in some god-awful ghettos. I said after that, I said, Tom, I can't do this anymore. I cannot just shuck them. We have to fix these people right. To do that, I need a dental office. He goes, well, how are we going to do that? I said, we'll just get a piece of land. We'll build a dental office. I said, well, I guess it's time for you to move out of your house. I've been going there for a decade now. So I said, I'll build a little place up top. His kids at that time said, Dad, you tell us we always have to finish our stuff, and you never finished your PhD. So Tom did his PhD on business as missions, business as ministry. And what it is basically is the concept that my gift is not ministry, Howard. I can't tell you a sermon to save my life, but by God, I know dentistry and I know business. So I can do dentistry and business and use the proceeds to support the ministry. And he goes out and does the ministry and saves the souls, does orphanages, water ministry. I mean, we do everything down there out of this. And it's not just the two of us, it's some other guys that came along and helped us. And we kept it small and tight. Everyone says, which church helped you with that? A lot of churches helped out, but nobody was involved because there's too much bureaucracy in anything that's bureaucratic, including churches. No offense, it's just the way it is. So we said, no, let's keep it small and tight and let's just do it ourselves and we'll fund this as we go. And we built this monstrosity that is the size of a football field that has a 20,000 square foot building that is...
Now are pictures of this on your website?
This is WIIC.org.
WIIC.org.
Yep.
And WIIC stands for the Whirley. So you're like the Wehrle
Implant Immersion Course.
Wehrle Implant Immersion Course. WIIC.org. And there's the...
and if you go, there's view the campus in the upper right-hand corner, is a little green tab.
Oh my God, that's a gorgeous building.
What we did
you can hold that up to the guys watching on YouTube.
This is let me get there. This is all my orphans I was working on. This is us building it. This is the building itself there. And it is dental heaven for training. I'm going to tell you that there's nothing else like it in the world. That actually, that's why I came here too. I wanted to ask you, Howard, because you've been all over the world. You've seen everything. Who else has 8 operatories completely modern? My biggest challenge is every time I tell someone I have a dental clinic in Mexico, they go, oh, you have a nice little clinic in Mexico. No, I don't have a nice little clinic in Mexico. I have the Mayo Clinic. I have 2 CBCTs. I've got a CEREC. I've got a full lab. I've got 5 general dentists, an orthodontist, an oral surgeon. I've got everything down there. And anything I'm lacking, I just bring it across. I mean, it's a 2-hour flight. It's no big deal. And then above it on the second floor is the living quarters for either missionaries or, in my case, dental students. And then I built more living quarters on the 3rd floor for the instructors. And above there is a church on the 3rd floor. But this is all wired with HDMI cables. We had myself and Tom, you know about, and then another gentleman named Glenn came along and helped us to fund it. But the 4th guy was the critical one, also was Joe Russell. And he was a builder that was retired and a Christian in Philadelphia. And he came down and lived there for 9 months to make sure this is all built beyond U.S. standards. So I got HDMI cable running throughout this thing. We've got our own generator. We've got our own water. I have purified the water in this building. You can drink the water in my building.
So how do you pay for all that?
Well, actually, you create a business that does it. So first off, before I did the implant course, I'd already used my own money, my tithing to pay for dental. So I had no debt, but dental didn't have all those toys yet. And then I started doing the dentistry, and what I found out was that they're going to pay you in chickens and eggs, especially being a missionary. I was giving half of it away free anyways, because that's what I'm called to do. So I wasn't making any money down there. I was like, wow, this is not helping them so much for my band.
To build a 20,000 square foot center, where'd that money go?
That cost $1 million, and Glenn put that up on the belief that somehow we would be able to pay it back. He doesn't like to say that. Okay, he's very close to this. He's a left-hand, right-hand guy.
What's the most funded university in American history?
It'd be Harvard, isn't it?
You know, that's what everybody says, but who is the richest man in the world?
Oh, that's if it depends, it's Carlos Slim or it's
I mean that ever lived.
Oh, that ever lived.
Rockefeller.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So when he died,
NYU then?
When he died, he had 1.8%. His wealth was 1.8% of the GDP.
Wow.
Which, Bill Gates didn't have half of a percent. Mm-hmm. And he believed in his religion that if you put your name on the building, on your charity, like Stanford did and Hopkins did and all that stuff, that you get credit on earth. So Rockefeller funded the University of Chicago and didn't want his name and didn't want anybody to know about it. And hell, just in the economics department, they got 12 Nobel Prize winners in economics. Wow. So I totally understand that. But people don't like to tell what they're doing in charity because that's not why they did it here on earth.
That's why Glenn's built it. We call it left hand, right hand in Christianity. The left hand should know what the right hand's doing. And he's militant. Even if I said his name's Glenn, he'd probably be pissed. Fortunately, he's a dentist, so he'll never know this. But I can't give his last name so Glenn helps to fund it. And I create this program with Tom where we can pay him back. So there's rent that comes out of this. A lot of it's from dental, to be perfectly honest. So I overpay for a lot of things down there because that's what I'm called to do. But the key thing was that Joe built it beyond U.S. standards. So I built this thing up, And I go down to the dental society there and I have them sending their needy and doing this, and I'm not making any money. So at the same time, I look around because I've got a good head for business and I've been doing implants for a couple of years. And I looked at the implant market at that time, the live implant training, and I noticed two things. One, if you were doing implant training, and this was 5-6 years ago, if you were doing implant training in the United States, then you couldn't really work on live patients because they had licensure problems and they had the lawyers down here. We're always looking for, that's our legal problem. If you left there, they were cutting every corner in the world. No one was using a CBCT. They were all using a panel. Even if they had a CBCT, they didn't really use it and this, that. I started asking the probing questions and I said, man, I can do a better job than this. So it took me 6 months to get a CBCT down there, my first Gen X 700. So I got it down there and we started putting on courses in November of 2014. And that's what started to pay for it because when I started filling up the hotel more, because the hotel had a low occupancy, now I got more teams coming through. And I said, when we come through, charge me like an American. So they overcharged me down there by my ascent. And also some of the profits from that, every time something was broke, I'd fix it and this, that. So that's what helps to pay for this. But it's not just that. We really are trying to run it like a business with rents and this and that.
Or do you have a support from an implant company?
I have, yes. I but primarily, and they're wonderful, is IDS Megagen. IDS Megagen and Carrie Lyons have been fantastic to me. I tell you, every time I put on a course and they came down to make sure I was doing it right, when they saw I was doing it right, they said, all right, man, we'll do this, that. They are so generous with all the supplies that they give. And Ike Towel has been wonderful in helping to teach me when I first got in there, because I was using AB Dental, and AB Dental, if you know, went bankrupt pretty much. They closed shop in the U.S. So in the middle of this, I've already been doing courses with AB Dental. Sorry, not AB Dental, excuse me, Biodenta. Biodenta closed shop in the U.S. And all of a sudden, we couldn't get these cases restored. Well, this is a ministry. I've got to restore them. So it took $10,000 out of my pocket to restore these cases at the one lab that was less that still had parts for Biodenta. So we make this whole transition. Megagen's been nothing short of fantastic. IDS, Scott Gantz and Ike Towel came down there and put on some courses. They've been fantastic working with me and being very helpful. I can't say enough good about Megagen IDS. They've been very helpful.
And IDS stands for Integrated Dental Systems.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been my choice. I would have just called it Megagen USA because everyone does the same thing. What does IDS stand for? It should be Megagen US, but they didn't ask me, So
I think they do that in case they lose their sponsor. I mean, I'd rather be Integrated Dental Systems if one day I'm no longer Megagen.
That's true. This is that's not my level of business. I don't know how to do that. But so they're the ones that I work with down there primarily, but I'm a free agent. I by design.
I want to ask you another thing because
sure.
some of the girls, they're different than boys, and some of the girls say, I don't know if I'm a single girl and want to go to Mexico. All right. What would you say to her?
This is awesome.
Because for me, I mean, when I go to Mexico, I mean, that just means it's just a blast. Like deep sea fishing, drink more than I should.
I am no fun. Okay, I am. So I'm telling you clearly, and I'm telling your listeners clearly. I'm telling everyone clearly. I'm the no fun zone, but it also makes me the safe zone. So the other thing that I saw about going outside was it was half implantology and half a vacation. I think if you're giving me $11,000 to teach you implantology, I should teach you implantology. If you want to go out and party, hey, stay another day and get as drunk as you want. I'm not a Puritan. Do whatever you want, but you cannot go out drinking and then work on my patients for 15 hours the next day. So when you're at the BAM Center, there is no alcohol.
The BAM Center?
Sorry, it was Business Missions, which is now that was the original name, but we're now calling the Wehrle Implant Immersion Center. It was the whole BAM idea that we started with. So there is no alcohol here by design because it's a Christian-based living. Now, it doesn't mean you can't go out and go have drinks afterwards. And I only take them out the last night because the whole premise of this is that it really should be called a boot camp. I'm doing immersion training. So I tell people, if you're going to come down, what's going to happen is I'm going to get you there Tuesday night. I'm going to tuck you all in bed in the same building. And after that, they don't leave this building until Saturday night. That's why this thing is so efficient and we can get so much more done. What I did to learn this stuff is I went to some of the other courses, and even when they're well-meaning, all right, you've got to have a car pick you up. Oh, the wrong car shows up, and it's got a flat, it's got this, and people aren't dependable. Then they go out to eat dinner, and they may or may not have drinks, and then the room may not be ready. Oh, just have some free tequila. It just turned into a nightmare. I sat there counting all the hours as an efficiency expert, going, oh my God, there's so much time wasted here. There is zero time wasted. They get up from 7 to 8 is the only time they have to themselves, and that's breakfast time when we're all sitting around talking. From 8 o'clock on, you're either placing implants, reviewing implants, or placing more implants, or learning and doing lectures from 8 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. And by that time, especially at the pace that I run it at with my energy, nobody's wanting to go out. They're all exhausted and they couldn't get out anyways. It's part of the rules is that you stay on campus, because if anyone does go out and get lost, it dilutes the quality of my program. So we do that for all lectures and a little bit of surgery the first day, Wednesday. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're doing lectures, and we do it in a very different way too than most of the courses is, if I was going to name this, I would say how to run a live implant training course right. And one of the things is they got to stay in because you're going to lose time otherwise. The other thing is you have to pre-plan all your cases. Now, this is not a fun subject for people to put on courses because that's way too many hours. I don't have a life anymore, Howard. All I do is implantology, my dental practice, work out, go to church, and I really don't have much of a life anymore. And I'm fine with that because I really enjoy doing this. But to do that, I'm screening every single patient that comes through the practice down there. My staff takes a CBCT and emails it to me with a treatment plan. I go through the treatment plan and I send it back saying, all right, this particular patient would be good for this, this, and this. Because as you know, there's all different levels of implantology. Some people need ridge splits, some people need sinus lifts, some people need sinus bumps. And if you plan it all out, then you can allot the courses necessarily. If you're a beginner, the last thing you want to do is go to a course where they just line up at the door and the first person in needs a sinus lift. You're not ready to do a sinus lift in your first one. And then you're going to watch the instructor do it. Well, you could have watched that on YouTube. So I plan all mine out. I can tell you all my patients ahead of time. I can tell you the implants we placed, the surgeries are going to be done, and I have backups for all of them just in case somebody doesn't show up. So a kindergartner gets kindergarten work, and then first grade work, and then second. And by doing it very rigidly and dogmatic, the first day of surgery, you're going to get lecture all day and you're going to do a socket grafting just so you learn how to work in the clinic. And I get to see you work soft tissue because so much of implantology is soft tissue. The second day, you're going to work on healed, wide posterior ridges. Very simple stuff. Now, the third day, you're getting in there, you're getting into more difficult stuff. You're doing ridge splits, baby ridge splits. You're doing baby sinus lift, little sinus bumps, things like that, and some immediates. And now you're getting a few anterior teeth to work on. The last day, you're working on multiples of all of those. So you're learning how to do larger cases where you might have 3 or 4 implants in a row. But by doing it that way dogmatically and by certain protocols that are established, just like in a regular school. I mean, you would go from kindergarten up to grad school. You wouldn't go grad school, 5th grade, kindergarten. But all that takes a ton of planning. And also it takes the same staff. I have the same staff over and over. I treat my staff like gold down there. I've given them my ministry had 3 parts to it. I wanted to increase the dentistry of Mexico because I thought it was sad that you cross a magic line in the earth and the dentistry went back 50 years. I wanted to create a workplace where my people were lifted up and had better lives because of it. And that's my employees. And third, I wanted to train general dentists how to do implantology and how to get better at it. And we've achieved all of those by working together. But because of that, my staff knows how to run this course almost blindfolded as a result of this. In other courses, that would make them instructors. I still bring down nothing but the best as far as my instructors go. I've got just incredible instructors. Frawley, who you met, let me see here. And, Ashraf Suya, he's one of them. He's the Tunisian wonder out of Tunisia. I've got Vance Big Country Costello. He's an ABOI certified dentist. I'm
going to stop you for a minute. What I just posted on the computer is the reason I invited you to come on this show is there's a thread on Dental Town under continuing education called the Wehrle Dental Implant Immersion. Mm-hmm. And everybody is just talking about how much they love you. And what I just did is I just posted your dates for this year. I just posted on the thread. Mm-hmm. There's your video about the deal. But
mm-hmm.
So 2019. So how much is the course? You said it's
11,000.
Okay, so you have a beginner course. They're all 4 days. Mm-hmm. So the next one's May 14 to 19. Yep. You got one August 20 to 25th, November 12 to 17. But then you got beyond beginners courses, and then you got all on X courses. What does X mean? Because you didn't want to pick the number 4.
Exactly.
Because sometimes it's 6, sometimes.
I know Paulo Malo, and God bless him, he's smarter than me, I'm sure, but he always says it always should be 4. I don't know. If it's 4 and one of them fails, then I got an all on none. So I'm not a big fan of all on 4. I personally like to put in an extra one if I can and plan and over-engineer it a little bit. So all on X just means it's determined by the needs of the patient.
Can I interrupt you there?
Yep.
In my 32 years, some of the biggest regrets I have is probably the most diagnostic error I made is, back in 87, I'm 25 and you come in my practice, you're 90 and your tooth's broken. I'm like, God, this guy's probably not going to live another 6 weeks. I'll smooth it off. I'll do this. And 10 years later, that guy's 100 in your office. And I don't know why I did this. But I did it so many times. It's so wrong. They wanted to get rid of their partial. So I'd put 2 implants and a 3-unit bridge on each side. I'm a hero. 10, 20 years later, she's in a nursing home. She can't come to me. I got to go to her. And one of those implants failed. And I'm pulling out and it's like, well, she gave me like $5,000 for each side. Why didn't I put 3 implants and a 3-unit bridge? And then I could have slipped out that implant. Nothing changed, but I saved $150. And now I remove 1 implant. I got a section off, and she's got.
You're exactly right.
And you're talking about. You drive around, your car has a spare tire.
Exactly.
But your mouth doesn't. What do you? First of all, what do you think of a 3-unit bridge being replaced by 2 implants and a 3-unit bridge on?
I'm not opposed to it. The people who are doing it, but I'm like you. I'll tell you what I tell my graduates. First off, they're all beginners. They need more experience. I go, dude, why place 2 when you can place 3? If you place 3, you get 50% more experience. Who cares about the money? Like
and then when you go uncover them, if one of those failed,
exactly, you look like a genius.
The 3 bridge.
Well,
any one of those 3 could fail at surgery, and you can still.
And I tell patients that all the time. I say, you know what, Mrs. Johnson, and I'll sell the case based on 2. So I'll say, all right, you've paid me for 2. Here's my gift to you, ma'am. I'm giving you an extra implant for free. Why? Because I'm telling you, there is a chance. Now they are 95, 98% successful down the road. Not initially. You've got to get them to take first. So if they don't take, and for whatever reason, then I look like a genius because I can then go ahead and put the restoration in anyways. And even if it's the critical last one or something like that, I can still put in a very good temporary one until I can graft that back one, this and that. So then she's not walking around with nothing in there, which she would be if I hadn't done that. So I over-engineer all the time. And as you said, all it costs is a little bit more money. And it's such a small amount compared to what we're charging. And it makes you look like a hero. So I'm going to tell you as a businessman, it's a good thing because you know marketing more than anybody does. Isn't that $150 and all that goodwill you get worth a hell of a lot more than $150?
Man, your faculty is amazing. I've had Isaac Tawwall. Did I say that? Isaac Tawwall on the show.
Yeah, he's done a podcast.
Scott Gantz is an amazing man.
They run their own course. They're smarter than me.
And you got the number 1 implantologist from Africa, Dr. Ashwa Sora.
So yeah, he's the one that started the Tunisian implant thing, and his work is out of this world, man.
Yeah, I've run into him several times. So he's one of your faculty down there?
He is. He's my prime lead dentist. Him and Kevin Frawley, who is from Surgical Aesthetics, who came down here with you. The 2 of those guys, because I have like a hierarchy, just in case you have the difficult case where something crazy happens. I like to have some studs I can throw in there. And Ashraf's gift in particular is the anterior. He can graft like nobody's business. He's one of those microperiodontal surgery guys too. And Kevin's, he can do just about anything with the sinus, although he's very good with soft tissue work because he's out of Beverly Hills where he does so much soft tissue work because every time they get a millimeter recession, they're doing it. So I actually have an entire soft tissue course. They do nothing but soft tissue grafts with him and with Miles Madison, who is the periodontist to the stars out there in Hollywood. And we have a soft tissue course for that too. So there's other courses I run. The bread and butter one is the beginners. But if you're more advanced, then because I have all these things, what I do is I'll talk to you on the phone and I'll find out where you're really at. Because everyone starts saying, well, I like to do this and this, that. All right, whatever. Don't BS me or you'll ruin your experience. Tell me exactly what you do and exactly what you need. The coolest one was I had this guy from the AID and they were getting ready for their ABOI thing. And they said, all that I lack is lateral sinus lifts. I said, okay, what do you want to do? He goes, for 4 days, I want to do nothing but lateral sinus lifts. And I happened to have a glut of lateral sinus patients waiting. I said, really? You don't want to do anything else? I got Ashraf Suya. He could sheet you anterior stuff. I could do this. Nope, that's all I want to do. If I can't do it, then I'm not going. I said, all right. Him and his buddy came and did like 8 lateral sinus lifts each, and that's all they did the entire course. So it just depends on what you need and what you want. I just have a very real conversation with them to make sure that they don't get their butts in trouble, and then have a bad experience. So as a result of that, I've got about 100%. If you go on the website, you'll see all the testimonials. All my students will tell you it's either the best or one of the best courses they've ever taken, because I do have so much preparation.
What I tell people is a huge red flag is when OJ wouldn't take the witness stand. And these guys they can only, on social media, they can only let people comment if they can delete them and ban them, and
right.
They got to control the message. Whereas like Dentaltown is more like a Yelp review. You can't. Yeah. And Dentaltown, you're just a legend on Dentaltown. And like say that your own this own thread, Whirley Dental Implant, is why I asked you even on the thread.
It was funny if you looked at the thread. What happened for a while there is some of your townies were going, no, this can't be possible. Nobody gets this many good reviews. So finally, Howard Goldstein, I guess is who's the moderator.
Howard Goldstein.
Yeah, came on and said, all right, all y'all got to stop. And I'm not a social media guy. So I got on and I wrote this long review, the answer to all their questions, saying, all right, I do this. I have no idea if this is the appropriate way to answer or not, but here's my phone number at the end if you guys want to call me. And they said, well, this is your first time on. I go, I can't even type. My kids type for me. So, and then the whole thing turned around. It became like, wow, this guy really does this. And I have 150 grads now. And I say, hey, man, they're all on there. Just go on the website, look up any one of them, look up Becky from Kansas City and Google her address and call her. And it's not like you can't call anyone of my grads and they'll all tell you something, oh my God, it was amazing. Because we do so much prep work. My wife always calls like in the middle of the course. Now she's going all the time, but she's going, how's the course going? Like this, there's some drama. As a baby, it's the same every time. They come in like in awe, like a little bit afraid, most of them, like, oh my God, I'm doing implants. I've had some people like accost me going, I'm going to kill somebody. Don't let me kill somebody. I'm like, dude, breathe, okay? I'm going to walk you through this. So the first day they're scared usually. And then the second day, they think they're overwhelmed because there's so much information first. And I said, because they aren't in the surgery part. Then when they see the surgeries, how I break it down step by step by step. By the third day, it's hilarious. They're all talking smack to me. They're walking down the hall going, I got this. I'm like, yeah, now you got it, okay? But I love watching that growth. That is one of the coolest things that I get to do. One of my favorite doctors was Dr. Robert Adair. He was the first guy to write me a check. He's this older guy here. And he said, all right, I know you haven't run a course before, but I got faith in you after talking to you. I'm writing you a check for the full thing. I'm burnt out on dentistry. And he tells me I can talk about this, so I can. And he went down there and he got completely reinvigorated. He bought a CBCT, starts doing implants. His nephew comes out as my first legacy, joins his practice. Now his whole thing's blowing and going, and then he got mitral valve prolapse. He was going to go to one of my advanced courses, had to call back and say, you know what? I guess I'm first in and first out. But he says, thank you for making it possible for me to finish my career as an increasing level of quality of dentistry. My practice has gone to another level, and I'm happy to leave on a high note. I was always fearful of waiting too long and reaching diminishing skill for realizing it. Good luck and continued institute success. God bless. First in, first out. That means so much to me. That really is worth more than money, that I can impact somebody's life, because that's 1/3 of my ministry was to lift the doctors up. I know what I've done for my docs.
I'm trying to, I know that you're really, really amazing what you're doing. I know the faculty you have on there is legendary. I know it's all that, but I'm trying to get myself in the kids zone.
Sure.
They're in dental kindergarten, a quarter of them, the rest are under 30. And I know how she's thinking. First thing she's thinking is, okay, I'm going to go start my practice. I'm going back to my hometown. You did ortho, you did implants. Which one should she learn first? Which one's worth more?
Oh, there's no question. There is no ROI comparison between the two. And I love orthodontics, and ortho's great, provided you get an assistant, do this right and do that right. But your ROI in implantology is greater than anything else. That's why Gordon says it's the greatest thing ever happened in dentistry. And I agree with him. because
he said it took us from the golden age, meaning gold inlays and onlays,
right,
to the titanium age.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, Howard. When we first started out, you used to they paid for somebody to come with this broken down tooth, and you didn't want to pull it. It was a distal tooth, let's say it was 18, and so you put in 5 pins, you put in endo, you put in a post, you wrap it with baling wire, you say a Hail Mary, and you hope it hits the thing. And you had to do that with teeth because you didn't have a better option. You would inform the patient, would do this, do that. I never do that anymore. If I have any questions at all about the survivability of a tooth, I'll stop and say, Mrs. Jones, let's say I'm doing a root canal and I do everything. Let's say this curved roots, upper second molar, all this. And all of a sudden a file breaks or there's just something in there that I'm just going, wow, this isn't going right. I'll stop, sit her up and say, Mrs. Jones, I'll tell you what I can do. You were going to pay me for a root canal, a buildup in a crown. Here's a better restoration. And that, given how this is going, I'm telling you that's going to have at best a 90% success rate, at best.
And the other thing that blows our mind is I'll say, she'll say, well, I don't know if I'm into implants. I'm kind of a little gun shy. And I'll say, well, do you extract any teeth? And she says, yeah. And someone comes with a toothache. I said, do you pull molars? And she'll say, yeah. I said, so you can pull a molar? I think it's harder to pull a molar than to place an implant. So they've already mastered a surgical skill set that's tougher than placing implants. What's harder?
Here's the
pulling out a human tooth or putting in a titanium one?
If you're doing extractions and endo, there's no question that those are harder. Molar endo, those are both harder than that. I'm going to tell you that in implantology, it's a skill set that you already own. It's just used for different things. It's like you've got 10 different tools around the house and you just never used them for this particular job. I'm going to show you as a general dentist, if you're a wet finger regular. Now, if you're the kind of general dentist that farms everything out, you don't do molar endo, you don't do extractions, you don't do. That's the name of your practice. Ought to be the don't do practice, which is cool. You're just picking,
don't do practice.
You're just picking,
I like that.
Simple restorative. Good. Then you shouldn't be an implantologist. But everyone else out there who's trying to get this stuff done and trying to learn it, chefs, they do it. And when they goes, well, what if I hit the nerve? I go, dudes, come on, man. I'm going to keep you 2 millimeters away from the nerve with a stopper drill. You can't get down to the nerve as long as you have a CBCT to plan out. This is critical in my courses. You have to take a CBCT. You don't have to own one, but you have to take a CBCT. If you do that, and they go, well, I'm getting close to the nerve. I go, how many times a day when you're taking decay out of a nerve are you so close you can see their blood type through the wall of it? And you do that all day long, and now you're afraid of this. You've been brainwashed just like I was. And again, that's the beautiful part about this is I was them. So my students are me. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to take all those different things you already know how to do. You already know how to control a handpiece. You have hand controls. You have this, that. Maybe you're a little weak in soft tissue. You got to get more into perioing. I'm going to make you into a bit of a miniature periodontist over time because you have to respect the soft tissue. But that can all be taught. Just like everything else in dentistry you're taught. When you first got to dental school, you didn't know how to do a molar root canal. And I got news for hey man, I got nothing but respect for the periodontists, oral surgeons who can do stuff. They're great. They're fantastic. They're wonderful. They weren't born periodontists and oral surgeons. Right. They went and got the additional education, which is good for them, to be able to do it. All I'm saying is get the additional education correctly, whether it's from me or from another course that really does it right like mine, and then follow up. And I also tell all my graduates, join the AAID when you're done. I do not want you to hear just Mike Whirley's voice out there. That's why I love bringing in Scott or Ike or Ashraf or Kevin or Vance or whoever else that I'm pulling in there. Robert Horwitz, all these guys that I bring in there because I want them. And in my course, that's one of the hallmarks of it, and almost to the point of confusion. They go, wow, you guys all have different opinions. I said, I want you to hear this. I want you to hear the back and forth as we discuss a case because most of the time it's slam dunk. Sometimes we'll have different approaches because as you well know, there's a dozen ways to skin a cat. And that's what they need to hear is all this. And that's another critical part of the courses. And that's the thing that I hate most about implant courses is when the docs call up, they'll say, how many implants am I going to place? Dude, how many implants do you think you should be placing when you've never placed an implant before and you're going to have 3 days to do it? You really think you should be placing 30 implants?
That reminds me of in college when people would say, well, how many hours did you study for this? It doesn't matter how many hours you studied. Were you on your phone? Were you reading?
Right.
Were you with a buddy? I'd rather master one hour than. But by the way, on your HEB dental office, What does HEB stand for?
It's Hurst Euless Bedford. It's just the area that I live in.
Oh, it's what? It's Hurst?
It's Hurst Euless Bedford. Hurst is the address, but Euless and Bedford.
Hurst, H-U-R-S-T, Hurst.
We're always known as HEB, so I just threw it all in there to
So I want to talk about the dark side, the fear side. Because you got to come from fear. Another thing, I hear this all the time. She goes, I don't want to know if I want to go into implants because, I got out of school. I went in with my mom, and my mom's been placing implants, and I'm sitting here looking all over implants, and all the implants 5 to 10 years old, 20% or 40% are ailing or failing with peri-implantitis. And so when implants fail, do they mostly fail right out of the gate? You put them in, they didn't take, or do they fail down the road? I
would say that more of them fail right out of the gate, so you should be able to tell it. And if that happens, I tell my students, hey, if it's really a catastrophic failure, just take it out and graft it. That's the great thing about implants when they fail. I remember, I went to these specialist lectures, and they'd say, when it fails, you better be able to deal with it. Well, here's what happens when an implant doesn't integrate. You just unscrew it just about with your fingertips because it didn't integrate. It's very rare that you have to cut an implant out, because if you have to cut an implant out, then you can actually keep it in there and leave it there for years. It's either stable or it's not. And you should never have that kind of high of a mortality rate or morbidity rate for that matter, if you're doing it right, which is again why it's critical, and why we have all this fallback. That's the tenet of the course, is that look, if I give you all this knowledge in 3 days, like who's the guy in New York City who's the smartest guy in the world at implantology right now? The Carl's Mish is dead.
His brother Craig
curly hair guy, maybe Craig, yeah, but no, who's the curly hair guy? I got a brain fart here. I can't remember his name. You know him. He's out of NYU. He's got his whole practice area. It's curly hair. He teaches a 2-week course out of Columbia. And I thought to myself, if I take a 2-week course, that's too long away, because he says, you'd be perfect for this. You learn too much too fast. I want you to learn a little bit and master it, and then come back and do a little more, and then come back and do a little more. That's how you do it. There's a way to learn this the same way you learned everything else in dentistry. If you're going to tell me you can't do implantology, then I'm going to tell you can't do dentistry. And you're going to say, well, I'm already a dentist. I can't do dentistry. That's my answer. You can do implantology. It's just a slightly different repackaging of the skill set you already have with the proper training and the proper follow-up. So all these people, Dennis Tarnow, sorry.
Dennis Tarnow.
That's the curly hair. That's what stuck with me. So we stay really connected afterwards. We have a Facebook group. I have email. I have phone calls. If you can't reach me, you're just not trying. I look at my email 3 times a day. So I'll get phone calls in the middle of the day where I go, somebody's in the chair right now, and I just open it up and there's a thread showing. I'll say, okay, tell me this, tell me that, tell me this, send me a picture. And I teach them all how to stay connected using screenshots of CBCTs and photos, so they can always reach us. And let's say I didn't know the answer. Well, then I can ask Kevin or Ashraf or whoever else. I can throw it out there for all my instructors to sit here and bat back and forth. There's not too much that we can't solve. And you have that completely at your disposal when you go back, because the truth of it is, when you take any course and you go back to your office, I don't care what it is, and you're going to implement it, there's going to be some times where you go, damn, now, what did that guy say that day? I don't know. I was sleeping that day because it was our 15th hour of surgery. What did he say again? Just call me up and ask me, man.
Another thing that I tell the kids to do is do the cheap stuff textbooks first. Like, I remember when I was little, I went to Carl Mish when I got out of school, and went to his 7 3-day weekend course at Pittsburgh. So the first thing I thought I should do is get his damn book and read it. So I read.
That's one of my slides. This is your textbook for implantology. Get Carl's 3rd edition and read the damn thing cover to cover. That is my textbook in this course.
Yeah, and it was a great podcast I did with him. It was 2.5 hours long on YouTube. It was just an amazing deal. But so I sat there and I read the book just like a book, any book, just front to back.
Sure.
And I got there and I couldn't believe people are asking all these questions like, God, that was in like chapter 1 in the first 10 pages. And so I think, same thing, Endo, Pathways to the Pulp by Stephen Cohen. I mean, I don't know why so many kids, to learn anything, they got to get in an airplane, fly across the country and go to these expensive weekend courses when they haven't even done the basics.
Sure.
Get Carl Misch's book on implantology and just read it. Just sit down and read it. And don't do that school stuff like
I agree.
School. Well, we're going to read chapters 1, 5, and 7, and we're going to do questions 13, 9. No, just read the book,
right?
Do all the questions, and then read it again. Because the first time you read through that book, you're not even educated enough to understand half of it. And then when you go to these hands-on courses,
it'll mean a lot more.
It'll mean so much more to you.
Are you trying to tell me, Howard, that you get out of something what you put in? That's a revolutionary idea. I've never heard of that before. You should write a book on that.
Well, I almost think it's almost like you have to be old anymore to want to read. I mean, they want to do
certainly a book.
Yeah, they want to.
And that thing's heavy.
Video. I always don't.
The only heavier is the Pink Perio book.
The what?
The Pink Perio book.
Well, but look, I want to go back to perio because I hear it a lot. Periimplantitis. Why? What is it?
Periimplantitis is inflammation of the gums around an implant. It can be a bunch of different reasons. The thing that used to be so confounding was the cement. Like, half the time it's going to be cement. I use what I call screw-mentable crowns now, which what that means is that it's a combination of cement retained and screw retained. So I make sure, first off, you have to make sure the post is pretty much in the center of the crown. And then when I have the crown constructed, I have a hole made in it so that I can put the post in there first, which makes it easier to cement because cemented is easier than that. And then when you cement it in, you can unscrew it, clean the margins off fully outside the mouth, and then put it back down in there and just fill in the top of the hole. And so I don't have cement retained problems almost ever anymore, and that takes away a lot of it. And the other part is just where you placed it. Do you understand that it has to have attached keratinized tissue? And if you don't have it, if you don't have that skill set, great. This is a great time to use your specialist. Hey, you know what, Bill, if you don't understand how to manage soft tissue, then you got periodontists all around you. Send them to one of them and say, hey, you know what, I need a connective tissue graft down here to increase the attached gingiva. Now, I'm going to tell you should learn that over time. But if you don't know it at first, you have to tear it out. But you have to respect the rules of implantology. And the rules are you have to place it in the bone. You have to place it in attached gingiva. And then you have to have it in such a way structurally where you don't have one small implant with a 10 millimeter cantilever coming off the back of it. I mean, it's just basic stuff. And as you said, all of it's in Carl's first book. If it's not in the first book, then it's in his book on prosthetics. And my very best students, the ones that are just geniuses somehow, some way, are the ones that have read both books and taken the course. You're exactly right. So there's nothing hard about it. It just means you have to, just like anything else. I mean, that's like saying, well, what happens when endo fails? I mean, which is the great thing now. I personally never retreat endo anymore. And I know the endodontists be up in arms about that, but I think as an endodontist, you should be learning how to place implants right now. And that should be one of your choices. Because no matter what you say, I'm going to tell you that I'm going to have a higher success rate taking that tooth out and placing an implant in than you're going to have no matter how good you are at doing retreat. And maybe you're so gifted that you're that one guy in the nation. That's not the rest of us. So I personally don't anymore. But the point is, there's no dental procedure in the world that doesn't have complications. I don't care what you're doing. Even if you only do occlusal composites, you're going to have sensitivity to chewing sometimes. You're going to have something in there, and you're going to have to learn to deal with it. The great thing about this course is when that happens, and this is half my phone calls, because it's their first time. I had an implant fall. And I said, well, what happened? I said, well, I got in there and it was loose. It didn't integrate. I said, okay, what'd you do? Well, you said take it out and scrape the stuff out, the soft stuff, and put some bone in there and put a membrane over it, close it up. I said, good. Did you do that? Yes. Okay, then wait 3 months. That's going to grow back. You're going to grow bone, and you're going to put another implant in there. And this time, it's probably going to work because what's the chance of 2 implants that both have a 95% success rate failing back to back? That's like the bad lottery you're going to win. I highly doubt that's going to happen unless the person has some sort of medical condition, which we also talk about in the course, is making sure you just look at somebody and just go, wow, this person's one step from the hospital. They got kidney failure. They got this, they got that. I had one patient that was just partying too much. They were young, so I knew they were getting married and they wanted to have kids. So I said to him, she'd had a couple implants fail on me. And I said, look, and I didn't want to hit too hard on it, so I had to find out a way. It's always about verbal skills you find out as you get older as a dentist. And I said, I tell you what, I know you guys want to think you're going to have a baby coming up. So what I want you to do is I want you to start treating this just like you're growing a baby in here. You're growing tissue, just like you're growing a baby. So I want you to start sleeping and all this, because she came in the day after labor day and you could smell the alcohol coming off her. Again, no judgment, but that's not a great situation for the health of the body when you're trying to grow tissue. She cleaned up her act. Guess what? The next implants worked. I mean, you just have to be able to understand what's going on here and be able to look at your patient.
Well, I want you to talk about two of your faculty. Talk about Sam Huckabee.
Sam Huckabee is who I want to be when I grow up. Sam Huckabee is one of the best human beings you're ever going to meet, just kind of like a younger Bill Wyatt, and he's a fantastic implantologist. He took Tarrant's course up there, and he did the 2-week program, and Sam was one of my earlier instructors, and he still comes with one. My biggest problem with Sam is he loves his family too much, which is a great problem to have, right? Because I'll call Sam up and I'll say, hey, Sam, what are you doing? He goes, wow, we're going to the kids' volleyball game. I'm like, Sam, nobody's that excited about a kids' volleyball game.
Where does he practice?
He out of Kansas City, and him and his wife does the orthodontics, so they have another ortho practice, and he runs my study club up there in Kansas City also. And he is just fantastic.
And tell us about your study club. What is your study club?
The study club is anytime I get 3 or 4 people in a city, I start a study club. So first I have to find a KOL, someone who's a little more advanced, and it helps if there's an instructor. Sam's an instructor in Kansas City.
Do you have one in Phoenix?
I do not have one in Phoenix.
Oh, my gosh.
You want to start that? I'll let you start it, Howard, because you got nothing else going on.
Well, I'll introduce you to some of my friends here.
Sure.
And, but there's
Well, you got the Cass Institute here. That's one of the places I came to look at. I was back with Joel Gonzalez, the implant dude.
Yeah, no, he just switched. He's no longer with Megagen.
No, he's not. He's with Argon.
Argon.
Matter of fact, he was in my office and left a text with his picture by the front thing saying, I was here and you weren't. And I said, well, that's I left town just because I knew you were coming. Only because Joel Gonzalez is one of my favorite people in the world, which means you can kid around like that when you're old.
He used to work for Kerry Lyons.
Yes, he did.
And now he switched to Argon.
He switched to Argon.
Yeah. Well, let me say that. Does the implant matter? Oh, like he used to be Megagen. Now he's with Argon. I mean, it's like Tiger Woods. It's like Tiger Woods, I'm sure, could beat me in golf with whatever they sell at Walmart.
That's true. I'm not going to say that the implant doesn't matter at all, but you better understand your implant system to be able to use it. But I'm going to tell you that the implant principles that we teach, or that anybody teaches who's teaching it right, are universal. It's not like, well, no, it has to be a Megagen implant here. And I know I should be saying that it should be, but that's just not true. Half my people, probably more than that, probably 2/3 end up using Megagen because I do, and I can speak to this. But I've got another third that are doing Implant Direct or Horizon. How do you say that? Hyacin, sorry.
Out of Korea.
Or something like that. And it's all, as long as you understand the principles of that. I personally love Megagen because it makes perfect sense. And when I went down, when I first got introduced to Megagen, any ridge line, when I went out there, their concept is that they have different size threads for different things. So if I'm going to sit here and work on this, and I've got a drywall here and I've got a stone wall there, am I going to get the same screw and put them both in there? When I went down to the hardware store and I got demonstration, I said, I need different screws because I'm putting on an implant course. Because now, you boys put the same screw in the same kind of material. Are you boys stupid? I go, well, this company is not stupid. They're putting different ones in there. They got drywall screws. He goes, well, good. That's the one you ought to be using. It makes perfect sense that it would be nice to have those options. Now, yes, with changing your drilling protocols, I guess you can put a Nobel in anything or a Argon in anything or this, that. I'm just telling you, for somebody who uses any ridge Megagen, I know
Megagen's secret.
Yeah, what's that?
It is very, very simple. What Dr. Park did in Seoul, South Korea, is all the typical university, all the implant companies around the world, especially in Europe, they have a very slow product cycle. So they get an idea, they got to go to universities, pitch to faculty, then they got to set up protocols, and then they'll do it, and it takes all this time and money. Dr. Park first owned a 100 dentist dental office and was crushed in dentistry. And then he was having problems with his implants. So he finally decided, I'm just going to make my own in the basement. So when they get an idea with this 100-person group practice, they got an idea and they want to change the implant. They all decide on it all after work. Then the guy will go mill 100 of them. And then they will all be installed and placed within, a week. And then, 6 months later, they've already done the whole product cycle. Then they go back to the drawing board and say, okay, this kind of worked, this and this and that. So their product cycle, it's so fast. I I don't know how anybody could keep up with that. I mean, name a dental implant company that could design an implant, make 100, and have them all placed in a week.
I can't.
Megagen does it all day long.
Yeah.
So
well, it worked.
Yeah.
I love the AnyRidge implant. Now I don't do any one and some of the other ones, but I love
it's kind of like, why do we get the flu, the cold everywhere? Because the virus leaves usually in birds, goes down 6 months. We humans have a baby every 20 years. Viruses have a baby every 20 minutes.
Right.
So by the time it gets back here next year, it's evolved. So it just evolves a scale of 100x of what a human does. So their evolution rate of their product cycle, owning that dental office, is
that's so cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome. I hear nothing but that he's a genius. I've met him just enough to shake his hand. I don't know Dr. Park, but I've never heard anyone who's known him say that the guy's anything but wonderful. And I love that. Yeah. I love hearing good things about people. There's so much other bad stuff in the world out there. It's nice to hear good things.
He is really the good guy. He's been on the show. Just a great guy. So I want to remember Bill Tatum, who when I was a baby and got out of school, this guy was the master genius of all time, is still placing implants.
Yep.
Lives in France.
Yep.
He has a theory that he thinks periimplantitis is predominantly because you place the implant and you didn't get attached gingiva all around it. And he says that these people are laying flaps, they're not sutured right, they're not taking the time, they're slopping stuff in, slopping stuff out, and that's the main problem. And he says when he places an implant, he dissects the flap is everything. And then what's the answer to what he's been saying forever? These kids think they can place implants without being a surgeon. Well, I'm just going to get a CBCT. I'm going to make a surgical guide. If you got a surgical guide, your mama could place the implant.
Sure.
And your mom is not a dentist. And it's like, I don't think anybody's going to agree with that. And then if the implant gets in trouble, you need to know how to lay a flap. So talk to that young kid out there who thinks, I don't know if I want to be a surgeon, but with a surgical guide, I don't even have to be a doctor to place an implant. It's
going to go south on you. When it goes south, and you're not going to know how to handle it. That's why at the course, the very first thing, remember when we do the lecture course, I do an extraction and socket graft. Really, I'm just trying to get them used to working with soft tissue. That's their first introduction into working with soft tissue. Because we're going to take a look at it, and I'm going to teach them how to bring the tissue over and close up and get it attached in it, and how to do an apically positioned
I'm going to hold your feet to the fire.
Sure.
I would almost think that teaching a person to do implants with surgical guides wouldn't even be correct. It's like, no, if you get really, really good later, you can use surgical guides. But at first, you need to be a surgeon. You need to learn how to lay a flap.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's going to break down on you. It's like anything else. I'm going to drive a car, but I'm not going to know how to change a tire. Well, then you better be Ubering in somebody's area.
And that's the best analogy for an implant to use. When someone goes to learn a car, they don't say, "Well, what car are you going to learn in?"
Right. Exactly.
A car is a car is a car.
Right.
But
no matter what car is, you better learn how to change the tire.
I really think that some people are getting over their head quick by getting into surgical guides, getting into CBCDs, placing implants, and they never saw the tissue. And then Hill would say, well, when they punched through the tissue,
right,
and they left that little defect there,
right,
that was the birth of periimplantitis.
That would be in that particular case. Now, Hilt's a genius, okay, and that I said for all my people, the AID, he's one of the benchmarks. He's one of the founder. I don't know if he's a founder, but he's certainly the person they all group around AID. He's one of the pillars of the AID. He's fantastic. I went and I learned from Bernie Dunson a little bit at his place in Atlanta, and he's the direct disciple of him. Matter of fact, that's why I got my hand wash station. I was at Bernie's place, and I had hand wash envy. He had a beautiful thing because Hilt's all about sterile technique and all that too. And I realized that I didn't have that down there. So I got proper hand wash stations down there. I would just, next day I went down and got it. But you're exactly right. If you see the way that Hilt lays a flap, man, that guy lays flaps like nobody's business. He'll go across the palate to do this, split thickness, bring this tissue over here and this, that. He does Laforts, he does this, that. He is amazing. But even if you can't be a Hilt Tatum, you should learn what's attached, what's not attached, and how to move the attached over to where you need it in a basic apically positioned flap. And that's one of the things that I teach my newbies is, now if you go in there and they got no ridge and no tissue and no this and that, maybe that's not the case for you then, because you're never going to find any attached gingiva on that. But honestly, that's only about 5 or 10% of the cases. The other 90% you can do by learning to do a simple apically positioning of tissue. Just very simple. If you're going to punch a hole in the top, don't punch the hole there. Take that attached gingiva that's usually right on the top of the ridge, bring it over to the buccal with a very simple incision and suture, and learn how to do this properly, and you can do it. but you got to learn how to do it. You can't just buy a guide, watch something on YouTube, punch a hole in it, and you'll get lucky a few times because you'll, by luck, have the right amount of attached gingiva, and then you'll get into something else, and then all of a sudden it'll fail, and you look like a damn fool as your patients, or you'll have real problems.
This is what I love about Dental Town. Some guy, and again, that's why I had you on the course.
Mm-hmm.
I like the I think Dental Town brings out the truth because you can't control your Yelp reviews. You can't control what they're saying about you on this deal. And what did someone saying? Where do you recommend? I want to learn how to place implants. I just did Whirley's course. Absolutely amazing. $11,000 for 5 days, flight, hotel, and all food included. I placed 7 to 12 implants. Did some cool bone grafting and a CT graft. But I mean, everybody just loves going there. I want to address one last thing though,
sure,
because I think you didn't really answer it.
Okay.
The safety deal. Can she fly from Dallas to Puebla? Does she got to do a layover to Mexico City?
No.
Do you think she'll be safe?
She will absolutely be safe. All right, let's talk about Puebla. Puebla is, because again, it's off the beaten path. It's a dead end. All the problems in Mexico is drug related. What you have to understand, it's like, here, I'll put it in American terms. All right, let's say you go to New York City and you get jumped in Central Park because you're dumb enough to be out there at night trying to buy drugs, looking for a prostitute, doing something you're not supposed to, or just being stupid. You decide to cross there with a $100 bill falling out of your pocket at 2 a.m. because you wanted a piece of pizza. I don't care why, and you get jumped. That same person then would say, well, I'm never going to Kansas City because I got jumped in America. That's just dumb, man.
Yeah.
You have to understand the geography of it, and there isn't that problem there. Now,
so you're saying it's safe?
It's very safe. But for
is
another
it nonstop
reason,
from Dallas to there?
It's nonstop from Dallas, from Houston to there. Dallas used to be nonstop, and it will be again. Oddly American for a while.
But it's nonstop from Houston.
From Houston.
So you don't have to go through Mexico City.
I fly all my people through there. Now, if you get more experience, like I fly through Mexico City all the time, but I do not let my students do that because then I got to corral them. I corral everyone because if they don't show up for the course, then there's a problem. So they're going to fly from Houston. But the other thing you have to understand, too, is all those stories, if you read about them, they're always out doing something.
Right.
You're in an implant center with a guard, with a gate, doing implantology. Nobody cares about you.
Actually, they love you because when I've been down there in Mexico, whether it's doing a missionary dentistry or whatever, a lot of times the guards will come by and they're all shaking your hand.
Sure.
Because we're down here, we've done it.
I pay for my own. I've got cameras. I got everything. It's a compound that I run myself. I grew up in inner city. This is
it's like Phoenix. In Phoenix, I mean, where my dental office is, somebody just got killed like a little while ago, but it was a drug deal gone south. Right. It's the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. I'm a grandpa, so I'm in bed by 10 o'clock.
You and me both.
These guys are out there doing drug deals at 1 a.m. But you're saying it's totally safe in that stuff.
Even when I was going down there, before I built the band, before I did this, before that, and I lived at Basile's house, I would go off and I would ask the people because I wanted to learn and I like talking to people. And they go, "Are you crazy?" And they look at you like you're a dumb gringo. We don't have those problems here. The problem in Mexico, in Puebla in particular, is my driving. My driving is very unsafe. And I'm going to tell everyone that when they go down there, you're taking your life in your hands when you get in a car with me because I drive like a maniac. It's the drivers down there that's the only time I've ever seen any sort of accident or problem. Other than that, I've never seen or heard of anything that's a problem. Other than, like you say, a weird thing here, a weird thing there with just your typical robbery.
So, one other thing. Again, I'm trying to get over fear, and the reason I talk so much about fear.
No, I hear you. I get this conversation all the time.
Yeah, the reason I talk so much about fear is because I believe that the other top predators. I mean, human beings are the top predator of the animal kingdom.
Yep.
But the other ones, a bear, a shark, a lion, they have no fear because they can just eat and kill anything. Mm-hmm. Where a human is a top predator, but they live their whole existence scared and they're frightened. Mm-hmm. And fear is bigger than greed. That's why the 10 biggest falls on Wall Street are far bigger than the 10 biggest gains. Mm-hmm. Things like that. And another fear she has is that that she's going to have to buy a $100,000 CBCT and a $50,000 implant setup deal. Mm-hmm. Does she have to buy a CBCT to get started? And how much would the introductory implant kit cost?
Let's say that first off, let's put the CBCT aside for a second. I'll answer that in a second. The first thing is, I'm not a salesman, so I can't tell you directly, but I'll tell you that maybe $10,000 is what you're going to spend on the startup implants and a motor and just to
and
get
how many
started.
implants with that?
Again, I'm not. The IDS going to kill me for this. I'm not a salesperson. I don't know
what
what
would you guess.
25.
Okay,
I'm guessing to get 25 implants.
And how much does the average dentist that takes your course? How much do they charge for placing one?
That's just it. Your ROI on an implant, start to finish, is $4,000. You're going to make it.
You can't sell a product if it's not sitting on the shelf. You go get a $10,000 startup system and a $10,000 kit. So you got $20,000. You got 25 implants. And you get paid $1,000 to place one.
Yep.
Well, what would you say the average?
$2,000 to place one. That's
in Dallas?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, Dallas, all the rich people. I'm in Phoenix. You know, we don't have the Dallas Cowboys. We have the Cardinals. We finished last in the NFL. That's how poor we are.
I feel bad. I'm gonna leave 20 on the table.
But again, I want you to say to yourself over and over and over and over and over, you can't sell a product if it's not sitting on the shelf. Someone walks in and says, can you do braces? You can't even do Invisalign. Why? Because you didn't go to Invisalign.com and take their damn free online course. I mean, all you do is take an impression, send that to Mexico or Costa Rica. And these implant courses, I will go back. I'll always say the smartest decision I ever made professionally was that I noticed in 87 that whenever I went to the course, it was always the same people. Mm-hmm. And they always had these weird initials behind their name, FAGD. Then I realized that all the people I knew that were happy, successful, and loved dentistry, they all had FAGDs. Yep. And they all took 100 hours of CE a year. And I would say to them, I got schooled straight. Like they would say, implants is one of them. This is my true implant story. I did not want to learn implants. I was trying to learn how to do fillings and crowns and occlusion and all this stuff like that. But to get my FAGD, I had to take, you couldn't just take
a certain number of them. Yeah.
And so I called the guy in charge of the FAGD in AGD in Arizona. I thought I was going to talk him out of it. They accept me because I want to take it all in fillings and crown and bridge. Mm-hmm. And he said, no, that's not what we're in. And I actually got mad at him and saying, well, that's dumb. Why should I take implants if I'm not going to place an implant? He goes, Howard, it's cross training. He goes, you have your toolbox. You don't want to just have a hammer. Right. You want to have a hammer and a screwdriver and a nail and all these tools. And so then I got, oh man, I can't get out of this. So I thought, well, where can I go and knock out all my requirements? And it was Mish. It was 7 3-day weekends. And I said, well, I'm going to do this course. Yep. Just so I'll be done. I get my FAGD. Oh my God. 3 hours into it, I was in love with Carl Mish. It was like I discovered this new continent, Australia, that I'd never even seen before. And also, oh my God, I was so wrong. Like I was totally against a sinus slip because I thought it just seemed a bridge would be better. Right. And I was honest. I told Carl, I said, well, I would never do that on myself. So I would, we talk about religion. My 2 oldest sisters are nuns, and the oldest one has studied every major religion and its original text. And she says, in every single religion, there's not a name of a person, a city, a place. Nothing can be found in all major religions except for one phrase, the golden rule: treat other people like you want to be treated. And I told Carl, I said, I would treat other people like I want to be treated. I would never do that to myself. And he goes, have you ever even seen one? Yeah. No. Exactly. Exactly. You go, well, that's why you don't even know. But I can't believe we were going to do an hour. We did an hour and a half.
Let me answer your CBCT question, though.
Okay, CBCT. All right,
let me the last thing I finish with. Because I told you, Steve McInerney was my instructor. Steve did 3,000 implants before he placed it. And then when I told him that I was going to have a CBCT training at my course, he goes, well, I can land the plane, but you do the CBCT stuff. I really don't care about that. So he came down. I did the CBCT training. He did some teaching too. And then he calls me back and he goes, Whirley, you ruined me for dentistry. I can't do it no more without a CBCT. No, you don't have to have a CBCT, but the day that you get it, you get so much better at everything in dentistry. If my office burnt down tomorrow and my wife works there and I do a schoolyard pick, I'd have to decide between my wife or a CBCT as the first pick. I'd probably take the CBCT because I know no one's going to take my wife because they're all afraid of her. She's a redhead. So you need a CBCT if you're going to do anything in implantology eventually, but you don't need it in the front end. So you'll buy that kit for $10,000. You'll make a little bit of money on it. And then a CBCT is a profit center. And I've got a slide here that proves all this stuff, showing in my slow years of implantology, I made money every year off my CBCT, just off the scans, not off the additional dentistry, not off of the implants, just off the cost. That's like saying my hygienist cost me money. Not if you're doing business right, it's not. So you have to get up to a certain level and then take the jump. And I've never sold anyone on a CBCT where they've ever come back and said, man, I wish I hadn't got that. Every one of them universally goes, I wish I got it. I sure as hell wish I had. I got 2 of them down in Mexico now, and those weren't gifted to me. The companies did help me with them, but I had to pay for those.
Okay, and I'll end on your my marketing recommendation for you.
Okay.
Pinky had a deal where they have these 5, 6 1-week curriculums,
Mm-hmm.
but it was it's hard to summarize what you're going to learn in a week, or in your case a 4-day deal. So what they did is they made a 1-hour online CE course on Dental Town for
Mm-hmm.
each one of their weeks.
Okay.
They said it was the best marketing thing they did because it explains. I mean, it's tough for this little girl at 25 years old to make a decision to go block off a week, go to Key Biscayne, sign up for, that's a big jump. But to sit there and listen to the actual instructor for an hour.
Sure.
And you've got some of the most amazing, yourself is amazing. You got such amazing faculty. I think if I was you, for the WIIIC.org,
mm-hmm.
I would do a mini series where every one of the teaches
mm-hmm.
a 1-hour deal. So here's your, or it could be just you or the teachers.
That's a great idea.
And then they're sitting there.
I love the different voices.
I like this guy. They buy into it because with humans, again, have you ever gone? Go to even when you go to the zoo, have you ever looked at a mouse? We have 98% of the same DNA as a mouse or a gerbil.
Mm-hmm.
They're just sitting and they're scared.
Right.
And humans are just obsessed with fear. And in fact, it's amazing. Like right now, there's so many people talking about how the economy is going to fall. They're falling all in its fairness. Okay, let's say the economy completely crashes. I've lived through it 4 times.
Yeah.
80, 87, 2000, 2009. Who cares if it falls?
Yep.
It's right back in how long is the longest misery index you've lived through? 2 years?
The worst is that are going to happen is as far as economies, because if you invested right before the great crash, you'd still make your money back. In order for our economy to fall, the entire nation is going to have to fall, and that's never going to happen. So invest.
So I like to get over the fear. You can't sell a product if it's not sitting on the shelf. And maybe you're right. It is frightening to think of doing it all on 4, but you're going to start with just molars.
Oh God, yes.
And maxillary second bicuspids.
Yep.
And you're going to start with low hanging fruit, and you're going to make money. And if you can't do this procedure, you're not going to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish you would. I wish you'd make some online CE courses.
When I write it down, it's done. This will happen in the next 3 months.
Yeah. All right. But I'm love everything about you. I love what you're doing.
All right, I really appreciate this.
Everybody on Dental Town loves you. Thank you for all you're doing for dentistry, your charity work, all the things. I think. Oh, you didn't give a name brand on the CBCT.
On the CBCT, sorry, I use. I started out with the Gen X 700. I'm now with the Vatek. I think the Vatek is the best one out there. Its quality is just as good as anything out there. But most importantly, it's warranty, because these things go out of warranty. Because I've had this happen to me where they broke down. Man, these repairs can be like $13,000, something like that. So the difference between Vatek's 5-year warranty and anyone else's 2-year warranty is night and day. So I would get a Vatek for that reason. Now, if Gendex or somebody else jumps up tomorrow and starts offering a 5-year warranty, then I'd say, okay, that one's just as good. But that is a huge difference between theirs. And that's something you can't dispute. Everyone can say, well, my image is better. Well, how's your warranty? Because the warranty is going to matter 3, 4, 5 years down the road.
Yeah, Vatek is an amazing venture.
The way they run their company is just fantastic. I go on and on that. But my short answer for anyone out there is simply this. Ask any other person, okay, so what's your warranty on it? And then ask what a repair is when the head goes out or something like that. And when you get up off the floor, you'll buy a Vatek.
And where are they? Is that Korean?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Korean.
And they're the ones that built the entire factory, so they build every single piece in the machine. Every nut, every bolt, everything is in their process now and controlled by them because they wanted proper quality control.
Yeah, and the last thing on that is some of the greatest autobiographies and books I've ever written was Mr. Honda,
mm-hmm.
Mr. Yamaha.
That was back when you were bad and your dad punished you.
Yeah, that's true.
I remember
Mr.
that.
Toyota. And what do? They built the whole company together.
Yep.
And the founder lived in the company.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even have a separate house. What does Chrysler, GM, and Ford do?
Mm-hmm.
They sub out to 30,000 different vendors.
Yep.
I mean, look at Boeing. Boeing designs the plane in Seattle, makes the fuselage in Wichita, and the management's in Chicago.
Yep.
That's not how Japan taught the world how to do it. And that's what the Koreans are doing. They're realizing that, if every single person involved with this product, we all work, live, and breathe. And
that's what Vodtech did.
They'll be at the cap. And the other thing Mr. Honda did, which was so amazing, is when they would have a downturn. What does Americans do? Oh, we got to save Wall Street, our stock, and the bankers. So we're going to lay off all of our employees. You know what Honda and Toyota did? They said, oh, well, we don't have any car sales. So here's what we're going to do. We made everybody a little toolbox. We gave everybody a list of everybody in Japan that bought our car. We're going to all break up, and you're going to go check with every car because we want data. And you're going to go visit 100 people that has bought a car and just say, how's it running? What broke down? What could we have done better? And then guess what? By the time they asked about 100 people who had an old car from Honda, they'd say, actually, I'd like a new one. And then after just like 6 weeks, those guys, the whole workforce would come back with so many orders, they'd start the factory up again. And then since they all live together, I might be a fancy schmancy engineer and you're just a lineman, but you're eating lunch with me. And you're like, every time I install that windshield wiper.
Right. You talk about it.
Yeah. Yep. And that's why there's only two countries in the world that can make a car. It's Germany and Japan, and they do the same way. And if you've ever gone to Tokyo and Korea, and you've ever gone and visited Chrysler, Chevy, and Boeing, you understand there's a difference. And it's the founder, the head rots, the fish rots from the head down, and you're the founder of this company, and it was an honor to meet you.
Thank you. Give me 30 more seconds. I just realized I'm going to get in trouble here because I didn't mention surgical aesthetics, which is one of the ways that you got my name was from Kevin Frawley. They have and Chase White. They have been fantastic in supporting me, the bone and the regenerative products. Not just that, Kevin's a fantastic clinician, and he's been one of my primary guys. He flew into my office and showed me how to do soft tissue surgeries. The first sinus lifts I did with Kevin down in Puebla, which is a great thing about owning your own place, is I can just line up all these patients and go down there and do my own CE, just get these genius instructors to come down there. And Kevin has been fantastic about that. And Chase, who runs surgical aesthetics for him, I can't say enough good about surgical aesthetics. And and that's the only regenerative product to use. And people always come and go, I'll give it to you for free and this and that. I go, I don't want your product for free. It's not that you don't have a good product. I'm so happy with surgical aesthetics and what they've meant to me and what they've done for me. And they did a podcast with you, but about 2 months ago.
And how do they, if someone wants to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you? What's the best way to
you go to wic.org, WIIC.org, or I'm old school, 817-919-6964 is my cell phone number.
Say it again.
817-919-6964. All you have to do is call me. I answer my phone myself.
Okay, so I'm going to say it one more time. This is your cell phone?
This is my cell phone.
What is it?
817. 919. 6964.
6964.
Or you can go to wic.org to see the information, or if you want to send me an email, my email is for Dr. Michael Edward Whirley. So it's DRMEWEHRLE @hotmail.com. And I'll say that again because that's a hard one. DRMEWEHRLE @hotmail.com. I'll answer darn near anything. So
you got to change that email to Gmail, because the largest search engine in the world is Google and YouTube. So let's see, I'm searching for dental implants, and you have a Gmail address and a YouTube video on your site. Google points you there.
I have a Gmail address, but only my staff knows it. I don't know it.
So if you have a Hotmail account, so Google is owned by Alphabet. So if you want to show up on search, you got to have all their properties. So you have to use a Gmail and a YouTube video on your dental website, on every website, because who owns Hotmail?
Okay.
Not Google.
Right. Okay.
So those guys they're tough.
I've got a Gmail account. I just don't know it. So I'll get that out there.
And then I like the fact that your website also has YouTube videos.
I'll put my Gmail up on your on the feed that we had on the link that we have going there.
Yeah, because you have YouTube videos on your deal, so that really, really helps with your search engine. The reason it helps with your search engine, say you said implant dentist, that's only a few ones and zeros. But when somebody has a YouTube video, and I just posted on Dental Town, and this is a YouTube video that's 4 minutes long. That's so much code. And when you look at Google's search engine appliances, 80% of those things would never even work, aren't even made for a text or an image. They're made for these big cumbersome videos. So the more videos by YouTube you have and Gmail and Google Maps, and you just all Google loaded up, that'll help your SEO.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because this is my weak spot.
And I do want this to be an introductory. So like, well, I want to learn more about this Whirly Burly. What is it? The Whirly Bird?
Whirly Bird.
Dr. Whirly Bird. Dr. Whirley. And then you got to follow it up with some online Cs because
I'll do it.
They're based in fear, and they have to get over their fear. And you can't sell a product if you don't sell it on the shelf. So just get out there and learn how to do it and do it. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Appreciate it, Howard.